I'll say this: I was the only white dude in the room, you know, and I headlined. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, that's what. A buddy of mine told me he did that. And he was the only white guy on a show in Detroit.
yeah, I've been there too.
And he goes like this. He goes, man, it was a dinner show. Everybody's having a good time. He goes, when he came on stage, he goes, you just heard all the silverware hit the plates and everything. He goes, he's like, and his whole thing was, he goes, I'm just looking to fuck some bitches.
Oh Lord!
And started the show like that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they shuffled him out of that room quick, and they got him out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he'd said some stuff that was a little over the top.
Oh, see now I'm hood tested. Yeah.
Certified.
I'm certified, bro. I got my own black card. I grew up in Marrero, but that's what I had to remind them last night. Like I'm doing my jokes, and one that usually didn't land. And I looked at him. I was like, look, y'all. I want to let y'all know I know that I'm the only white person here, you know, but I will call on the soul of Bernie Mac and let y'all know I ain't scared of y'all motherfuckers. and look, they crack, you know what I mean? But I'm like real privy to black culture in New Orleans. I was adopted by 2 black families growing up, you know what I mean? So my whole thing last night was like, I'm trying to get invited to Thanksgiving this year, y'all. So I know it's delicious. Yeah, so I'm good. I'm good in rooms like that. You know what I mean? But it's one of those type of shows, like they amp me up so much, and I wasn't able to go to sleep till like 2:30 in the morning last night. You know?
Because you're reading. It's because. And it was Brad Upton, the one that told me this from Dry Bar. And he's like, yeah, you're reading the room and you're paying attention to everything because you got to change on the fly all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and he, you know, it makes sense why you can't go to sleep.
Right. It does. I mean, it's a good time to write, too. You know what I mean? I'll sit there and think of jokes at the end of the night.
What you should have said on stage.
or a joke that I wanted to say and didn't, because I did 30 minutes. I did like 35 minutes last night.
Right.
And within that, it's like, oh, shit, I did have a joke that I forgot to tell. You know?
Right, because there's the 3 sets. There's the set you're going to do, there's the set you did, and there's the set you should have done.
Right.
Right. And there's always there's always that shit going on.
No, my set was great. Like they love me and everything. It was just you know, they don't expect me coming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, but I am that dude that I've been accepted into the black community, and I've had like black rooms be like, dude, you need to go on the road and show New Orleans culture to the world, and I'm like, I'm almost there, buddy. You know, I love doing this. You know, and I love that. See, the black community in Louisiana really supports comedy. You know, and they also support the black community in the comics. They make more money than anybody. You know what I mean? Like our black comics are savage, and they are more well known in our scene than anybody else. You know, so it's a privilege to be able to get on some of these shows and see what I got. Because, you know, if you can make a black room laugh, then you're funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? Funny's funny.
Yeah, or you're stupid. That's what they, you know.
Yeah.
You stupid.
Yeah.
That's what you hear all the time. That's when you know you're doing good.
Yeah, you stupid, boy.
Oh, you stupid. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good compliment.
That's like I was doing okay, don't take this the wrong way. I did some work with Thunder from Down Under, the male dancers, the review, right? And I would book these guys for shows because one of the club owners in California told me, he goes, Dave, you got to book these guys. You got to book these guys. I'm like, I don't want to frickin' book these guys. And he goes, no, you're going to make money, right? Mm. So I brought him into a club the first time. Then I started bringing him into theaters, right, and selling out these theaters, big theaters, man, doing over $40K at the gate.
Nice.
And so I'm in Las Vegas where their agent is. And I'm out there. I was doing shows in Vegas, and their agent, the agency that they're with, they also covered Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And Tyson was at Brad Garrett's comedy club. And they called me and they said, Dave, you want to go see Mike Tyson? I said, absolutely. I said, can I meet him? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can meet him after the show. And I'm like, okay, cool. So there were some of the guys from Thunder were there, right? Yeah. These guys are all ripped, chiseled, and all this kind of stuff. They got everything going for them.
Yeah.
So the manager goes, what do you guys think of Dave? And they went, oh, yeah, we like Dave. Dave's a good cunt. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? and he's like, no, relax. That means they like you. And I'm like, not in California, doesn't it? And those guys were freaking hilarious. They're they're all straight. They get, oh my God, those guys get more women and stuff like that. And I hit him up one time and I'm like, you guys get so much tail. And he goes, oh no, Dave, it's not what you think. And I'm like, oh, no, get out of here. And he goes, no, seriously, mate. He goes, I've only had one woman come up to me after the show and said, I want to suck your dick right here, right now. And I said, and that's one more than every other guy in the United States combined.
Yeah. That's good.
And he goes, you got a point there, mate. Walk away. I'm like, fuck you.
Hell yeah.
So those guys, I mean, those guys are fun to work with. I'll bring them in. I used to, we were talking about this before we were when we were outside. When I was on the road all the time, you got to supplement your income. Yeah. And so I would bring those guys in because we don't get paid shit. Mm-hmm. And I'd bring those guys in and make big money doing that, and that's how I'd finance my road.
Producing the show?
Yeah, I'd produce a show, and that's how I finance being on the road as a comic.
Heck yeah, man.
So that worked out. That.
Well, welcome to Pickles House, everybody. How y'all doing today? I'm excited for this episode. A good friend of mine came all the way from San Francisco, right?
Yeah, Bay Area.
Bay Area, man. I met him here a little over a year ago at Howlin' Wolf. I did a set. He went up and did about a 20-minute set and killed. Yeah. And we became friends afterward, man. I want to welcome my good buddy David Bressoud.
Yeah,
no D, right? No.
He's got that whole Cajun thing going. If you look how my name is spelled, it's French, and it's like I get Bressoud all the time, but it's Bressoud.
Bressoud, David Bressoud. I'm sorry about that.
No, dude, I've been doing shows with my last name's get butchered my whole life, so that's not. It's not a big deal.
I should get that though, being from New Orleans. But you know how they spell like go LSU? It's like G. It's not G-O. It's like G-O-U-E-X. You know, I don't get that. I'm like, what is Guex?
Yeah, you don't get. On Thibodeau, you don't have that going on.
I had to learn. I'm still learning to pronounce those names and words. And stuff.
I saw a street last night. It was TCH something, and I'm like, I don't even know. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like somebody with a stutter.
Chapatulas, baby. That's what I think you saw. Chapatulas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but why is the T silent?
I don't know, bro. I don't know. It's I guess that's what Cajun French or something. That's old school, like Cajun, because we were built by the French. Right. It's French architecture. So I believe there's a lot of influence there. There's like I think Calio, all that stuff. And you can't listen to the GPS because they'll tell you the wrong name.
Oh, it'll mess up names.
Yeah, it'll mess up names bad.
Siri ain't much better either.
Yeah. I have a joke like that when I go to different places. I look for the most fucked up street name, and then I'm from New Orleans, and we got real crazy street names like Chapatulas or Calio. And I was just in Austin, Texas. I said, but I was just riding down a street named Mancaca to get here. That's pretty crazy too. Yeah. And that's like a good opener to like break the ice. I like messing with area jokes.
Yeah, I mean you got to do that. It's kind of like you ever see the movie? Oh damn, I'm drawing a blank on it. What was the band one that was the spoof, the documentary?
I'm not sure.
Spinal Tap, yeah. And they're like, this is our favorite place. They're looking on the back of their guitars to get the name of the town they're playing and everything. And you're like, all right, man.
Man, let me ask you, has that ever happened to you where because and when you're grinding in the comedy game, and just tell everybody how long you been doing comedy for?
12 years.
12 years. So have you ever like been on the road so much and it just all becomes one like blur? Have you ever gotten up on stage and forgotten where you are?
Well, I woke up in a lot of hotel rooms, and you're like, where the fuck am I, man? And you just, you gotta. It takes you a moment to acclimate, find out where you're at. But on stage, I mean, I've gone on stage and. And even producing shows, and you've probably done this too, where you just totally forget who you're bringing up.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm dyslexic too, so it really messes with me when I got new names that are like crazy names, So I write it. Recently, I double back and make sure I got it written down on a piece of paper. I had to do that in Austin, Texas, twice. And because they do shotgun style whenever they bring up comics, it's like I bring up the next comic. So I'm doing my time, and when I'm up there, I'm just like in my thing, So I forget how to say somebody's name. I might not forget their first name, but it's last names that get me a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I make sure to write it down on a sheet of paper when I'm done.
And the thing is,
there's no shame in that.
Well, no, because you sit there and you go, all right, I'm not going to screw this up. I'm not going to screw this up. I'm not going to screw this up. And you say it so many times to yourself that you screw it up.
Yeah.
I mean, you jinx yourself there. You just talk yourself into it.
It's horrible, yeah, but it's a skill to learn that you have to get used to. Also, bringing people up in different places. Man, let's get to know you real quick. Where are you from originally?
Born and raised California. I was lived in Southern California until like 8th grade, and then been up in the Bay Area ever since. And then I went down to Santa Barbara, moved down there for a few years, and when I was living in Santa Barbara, I got on with an ambulance company, and I went to see a cousin of mine. A cousin got married over in Fresno, so I go to the wedding, and my other cousin worked at the ambulance company there, and they had this specialized trauma rescue team. So I moved from Santa Barbara to Fresno.
Okay.
To be on this rescue team, and it was badass. And then I ended up getting stuck in Fresno for like the next 26 years. Oh, wow. And then just recently moved back. Matter of fact, right at the start of COVID, moved back to the Bay Area.
Okay. That's what's up. So you born and raised in California.
Born and raised.
I've only been to San Diego, and it's beautiful. I got to go. My cousin used to live off of Mission Bay.
Oh, nice.
So I got to go over there, and you could walk from Mission Bay to the ocean, and mess with all the ocean kids. I bought weed from the little hippie kids, the surfers and stuff. That was great. It's a great time out there when I get to go. When I got to go, I want to go back out there, man, because it's so there's a lot of stuff to do. I don't know about living because what you've been telling me, it's expensive.
It's so expensive. My daughter just bought a house down in San Diego, and she and her fiance are both engineers, and their house was a 7-figure house. And looking at that house here, okay, it might have been. I mean, I don't know what real estate is here, but it might have been 150, 250,000 here.
Depends on where you're at, Well,
yeah.
If you're in the city,
Diego, it was
yeah. But if you're in this city like New Orleans, is being bought up by billionaires. You know what I mean? So everything's going up. Like St. Charles area, all those $1 million houses. Just depends on where you're at, But you can find cheap real estate here if you're willing to fix it up. They still got houses that are messed up from Katrina that if you fix them up, they'll be worth millions. They got a lot of people.
But you got to dump a lot of money into it, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a billionaire's playground. And
right.
That's what's happening. A lot of people started buying up the property around here. So it is. Property values are going up.
Yeah, that's some George Soros shit right there.
Yeah. Excuse me. So let me ask you this. I like to ask people, do you remember your first influence to comedy whenever you were younger?
Yeah, it's funny. My brother played a big part. My family was really funny. My uncles, man, were they were just dishing on each other all the time, right?
Okay.
But my brother got into comedy, and I remember when we were kids.
So your brother's a comic, or no, he was just watching.
My brother just liked comedy. I mean, he got into the Marx Brothers, early. I mean, we were kids,
yeah,
and he got like Albert Brooks had a comedy album out, and then Franklin Ajayi, and just getting into the comics back then. And then Dr. Demento came out, and Dr. Demento was still a student at UCLA and had his radio show, and we used to pick it up out of LA and listen to that, and you'd hear like Spike Jones and all these guys, and started getting into comedy that way. And then my friends that had older brothers and sisters started getting into Carlin and Cheech and Chong, Big Bamboo coming out and all that, and then getting into Pryor, and those were all the young influences.
Were you what were you like? How many kids were in your family?
There's 4 of us, and I was number 2.
Number 2, okay. So you were like in the middle area.
Yeah, because I got my brother's 13 months older. Then I got twin sisters that are 2 years younger.
Oh wow!
And so they talk about that, not getting attention, man.
Yeah, twin sisters get it all.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, and they're night and day. My sisters, man, they're like yin and yang. They are total opposite. One is good Christian girl, lives out in Idaho, does volunteer work and all this kind of stuff, and the other one is just like, well, fuck it, I'll just say it. She's like totally into gambling, hangs out at the Indian casinos, doing meth and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
You're like short, squat, and you're like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the movie Twins, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger, they are that different.
Yeah, they say twins are usually like that,
Yeah, because, when they're not, when they're maternal twins, when they're the same, then they come out like that. But paternal, I think it is. They're 2 separate eggs that got fertilized.
That's fraternal twins. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my
so
sisters
they're fraternal or identical?
No, they're not identical.
Okay, so
they are as opposite as can be.
Yeah, I've grown up. I had 2 buddies like that, and one was they looked completely different. You would never know they were twins.
Right.
It's just 2 different personalities.
Absolutely,
and just 2 different people, and I guess it's the same. Everybody has their own fingerprint.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, my we were all so different. My brother went to school up in Humboldt and was totally into the Grateful Dead and, just partying and shrooms, acid, just going to
acid everywhere.
And he was all into that, and he was like, I need to figure out how I can stay here. And he became a teacher.
Okay.
And so he's a history teacher up there. He's retired now, but, that's his deal. I'm doing my deal in the Bay Area. My sister.
Was your family supportive of you being a comic?
By the time I got back into comedy, because I started in the 80s and then I stopped. By the time I got back in, as far as parents, my mom passed when I was young, and then my dad didn't even approve of me being a paramedic.
Okay.
And he told me, I think you're wasting your time as a paramedic. And I said, I think the people whose lives I've changed or saved would disagree with you.
Yeah.
And, he's like, you need to be in sales. I'm like, I need to be
in sales?
Yeah. I'm like, I need to be doing what I want to do.
I don't think I've ever heard of a parent being like, they want their child to be selling stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, so selling all that weed wasn't a good thing, huh, Dad? Right. I was like, Dad, I've been in sales for years. Just not.
This is what you wanted.
It was pharmaceutical sales, Dad.
It's legal in Cali now.
Yeah. I was just ahead of the curve.
That's right.
No, it was messed up, man. But it's they weren't really into it. Matter of fact, at my dad's funeral, my stepmother's like, "Don't tell any jokes." I'm like, "Bullshit, man! I'm telling whatever I want."
Yeah, you gotta. I've been thinking about doing a show like that to where I get comics and we to honor the dead that we have in our lives, tell funny stories.
Right.
I've been thinking about putting together a show like that, and I have my.
I'll tell you what. If you get a chance to do this, Jim Brewer. Okay, Jim Brewer was coming up. A buddy of mine filled in for his normal opener, and Brewer was opening for Metallica in Oakland.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, Brewer toured around and did that, but. So
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
Opening for Metallica.
Yeah, he's opening, and he's totally. I mean, he's a heavy metal guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's hilarious. You know,
Yeah.
you see his specials and stuff like that because he's way into AC/DC and everything, and he's met all of those.
Jim
guys.
Brewer's great.
Yeah, Brewer's phenomenal. So Brewer, my buddy Johnny Osborne got Brewer to come in and do a show in Fresno on his way up to Oakland.
Nice.
And it was just a little small deal. And Jim goes, all right, here's the deal. You guys, no videotaping, no nothing. I'm filming this. And he did this show about his parents dying. And it was the most amazing comedy. He took something tragic, his mom being in a convalescent home, his dad dying at home, and going through all that and making it just, I mean, it was so gut-wrenching, but hysterical at the same time, and so funny. His twist on it was absolutely, he was brilliant in how he wrote that.
Yeah, I opened for Mo Alexander. You ever heard of him? So he's a bigger comic out of Tennessee. He's been on like Heart of the City and stuff. So I was talking to him. We just did a show last Saturday, and I was we were just chilling afterwards, telling stories and bullshitting. And he was like, "Bro, you knew that could be a show." I was like, "Yeah, that is a show." You know. Well, he was like, "This is the podcast," and I was like, "Well, I mean, can't do it." But I was like, but he was trying to tell me, he was like, "That's how we honor." I was telling him about somebody I love, you know, one of my little brothers, and he passed away when he was younger, and he was like, "Man, you got to tell that on stage." You know, he's like, that's, and I was like, really? You know, because I've talked about him on stage before, but it's a hard thing.
Right.
It's a very hard thing to do.
Right.
Plus putting that funny twist on it, you know.
Right.
But he was like, nah, that's how we honor the people in our lives, you know. And I was like, that makes sense. Maybe I should do a show like that.
It's cathartic. I mean, it's healing for you too, you know. But it's gut wrenching. I mean, you're filleting yourself open right there,
right?
You know, for people to hear stuff. That's a tough one.
It is, but you know what? It is. I do think it's healing. You know, thinking about it, it would be healing. You know, to get what you have on the inside out, and let the world hear it. You know, it's a vulnerable thing, and that's what crowds like. They like the vulnerability,
right?
You being real on stage, and you bringing 100% you up there.
Well, that's Paul Mooney talked about that when Pryor. You know, Mooney's book talks about doing the Chitlin circuit and everything like that back in the day, and because black comics couldn't get into the white clubs really, and then it started changing, and Mooney was writing for Pryor, and then he talked about the night that Pryor got up on stage on the main stage at the Comedy Store, and he said that you know, Pryor just started acting like he was God, and he was talking about, "Hey, where's my son?" And did this whole thing about, you killed him, and then he did it with JFK and MLK, and went through everybody, and then just went, fuck it, I've had enough of you people. Dropped the mic, walked off the stage dead center and out of the room, and Mooney's like, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And he goes, right then, comedy changed at that moment.
Yeah.
And he just brought in, it wasn't just the canned jokes. And, Carlin went through that same change, man.
Yeah.
Where, he turned down, Carlin was making big bucks in the old, the Vegas suit and tie thing and everything. And then he got into the counterculture and he's like, no, this is not real.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is the more Carlin's whole thing, my comedy coach, was friends with Carlin. He said, and Carlin told him, he goes, write about the shit that pisses you off.
Okay.
And that's what you should write about.
Yeah. One thing I like about Pryor too, like I was watching. I'm a student of comedy, so I love watching Carlin. I watch old clips of Pryor and his interviews, and he was like, they asked him about. They asked Richard Pryor if he would like to see a racist, or how would he feel if there was like a racist white comic, and he was like, I want to see that. He's like, I want to see, because he's like, that's real comedy. You know what I mean? If you go up there and you do, and I don't mean like being like real racist, but doing jokes that people might be off kilter to them. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
it might seem racist to them, but it's all how you present it. You know
Right.
what I mean? And Richard Pryor was like, yeah, I want to see that person. I want to see that person who's not scared to take these chances and go to that next level. And I love that about the bigger, greater minds of comedy that I study. And it's like, yeah, take those steps.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
you got to push the envelope. I mean, we got turned around. Like if you're a student, you look at the days of like Lenny Bruce and Norm. I'm totally drawing a blank.
Norm Macdonald?
No, way before him. These are guys in the late 50s, early 60s that were getting getting arrested for the shit that they were saying.
Yeah.
And
Which is crazy in itself.
right, and they were pushing the envelope, right, and then it kept going, that it kept getting pushed farther and farther and farther as each generation came through, and you look at the guys that were that I think the best comics are the guys that can make social commentary and make it funny and take a subject that's taboo and make it funny. And I think two of the great guys at that right now, it used to be Carlin and Pryor, and I think it's Burr and Chappelle now.
Burr's amazing, dude. And did you just see Chappelle's set on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
About Kanye and everything.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
He just did it last Saturday. Do go watch it. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, dude. One of his jokes was Kanye fucked up so much he got Kyrie Irving in trouble. I was like, dude, that's just fucking genius. You know?
Well, and the funny thing is, all right, the transgender community is all against Chappelle, but if you listen to what he was talking about, and Daphne,
it was his friend.
Yeah, okay, she was a comic. I knew her.
Yeah,
she would show up at the open mics and everything, and she supported him the whole time. Mm-hmm. And that last special that he did talking about that, I mean, it was just like, man, it's just messed up. Where he's expressing a point of view. It's just like when Burr talks about something, and because I don't want to get in a bunch of trouble, so I'm going to just how many listeners you got? Or how many viewers?
Don't worry about it. 2 people are hearing this.
What'd you go viral for, Dave? I supported Chappelle. So basically, what do you do now? I flip burgers. But Burr, he'll touch it, with Rihanna and Chris Brown. When he was like this, he's like, well, all right. What was she doing before it happened? And I'm not saying it's justified, but it's like even in hockey, you get minutes for instigating. You get a penalty for that. And so he's sitting there going, and he'll say something that you're like, "Ooh, don't go there," and he's like, "What? Why is it so quiet in here? All right, let me throw you an olive branch." And to be able to do that transition and touch on something that everybody goes, "No," and then they go, "You know what? He's got a point." That to me is brilliant writing right there. Love that.
Yeah, dude, go watch Chappelle's fucking last Saturday Night Live monologue. It was fucking great. He literally dropped the mic on stage and walked off. I mean, it was that great. It was.
Well, he did the one on Trump after the election. That was a great one too.
Yeah, that was, dude. That's the best times. Whenever something crazy happens in the world, they throw Chappelle up. He comes up with the best monologues, the best sets.
He's just brilliant in the way that he thinks. And even he goes, look, I don't care. You talked about Pryor wanting the racist comic, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing that Chappelle talks about is that from the art form, he goes, I may not agree with what they're saying, but I respect the art.
Right.
And so, and as long as they're funny doing it.
Yeah, there's a way to word things.
Right.
And I learned that too. You know what I mean? You could say things, but there's a way to word that thing to where you're not like sinking yourself forever.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing, because we, this counterculture society that we live in, I mean, there's stuff that you can just be gone. And it's just it's unfortunate. That's one of the things. I mean, California, I don't know what it's like down here. I don't know how much it's like down here, but California, oh my God, you're sharing stage time with all kinds of different people, and everybody's got a different pronoun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you got to be careful. You can't say anything. The South, okay, here's the thing.
I would kill. By the way, I want to come to California and kill a room so bad, bro. I do.
I'll bring you out.
I do.
I'll bring you out. So, but here's the thing. People from California or from doesn't matter, either coast.
Yeah.
Look down on the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're much more sophisticated. We're more intelligent and everything like that. and they're like that. But the thing is that you guys figured out the fucking pronouns a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about saying anything because you just say y'all, or them there. Okay, and you're done. No, it's true, man.
Them there guys over there, bro.
Them there. Who you with? Them there. And it doesn't matter because
y'all some crazy some bitches.
Yeah. And so you never screw up on the pronouns because you already changed the language anyway. So it turns out while everybody thought you were behind the curve, you're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
I guess. Listen, I just talk to people as respectful as I can, and I don't. You know what? I don't even pay big attention to the pronoun thing. I just talk to people as people, and genuinely as people and human. And people accept me. You either accept me or you don't. You know. But usually, like I say that because I want to go to Cali because I have jokes that bring the room together.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it takes all that pronoun stuff and throws it out the window.
Well, and there are guys that can do that. There's a friend of mine, a comic in Fresno, Feather to Wise, right?
Okay.
And Feather will take a room and he can just bring it together in such a way. A lot of guys, like I'm more structured in, I want to talk about this and this and this, and then I got in that bad accident and I'm pretty much deaf. And so I used to do a lot of crowd work.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore because I'm like, huh? And it just sucks.
Bro. That does suck.
But the
I love crowd work too. That would oh man, I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I used to go around. I used to run the show at this casino, and I'd walk around and I'd go from table to table and just interview the table. I had a cordless mic, and I'm going, and I would just come up, just boom, 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 popping off, and it was fun. And I remember the first time after the accident when I went back up on stage and I tried to do it, and I was like, what? And I could not frickin' hear.
Man.
And all the ambient noise just jacks me up. So that's the jacked up thing for me now doing comedy is that I can't hear the laughter anymore.
Oh.
I can hear when a joke hits big. Okay, I can hear that. But if I get decent laughs and it's not like a poof burst, I have no frickin' clue. I mean, I'm looking at people. I got to read it different.
So tell the people what happened. You got into a wreck and
I was driving back. I was doing a show up at Tommy T's up in Pleasanton, and I went there before the day before to pick up some tickets, and I was going to pass them out the next day. Get some last minute people in there and stuff like that. And I had J.R. de Guzman, who's making it really big. He was going to be on the show, and a couple other buddies of mine, and. I was driving down from Pleasanton down to Los Gatos. So I was anyway, at one end of the bay to the other, and I was making good time. And I remember thinking, it's 4:30. I'm beating the traffic. This is freaking awesome. And I just got on. I switched from one freeway to the other, and that's the last thing I remember. And the next thing I remember. It's dark outside, and this is the Monday before Thanksgiving. Okay, so it's getting dark early and stuff. And the next thing I remember, it's dark outside. I'm stopped. I have no idea where I'm at. I have no clue. I had an F-150 Super Crew cab, and the whole front end is just pushed up. And I thought I must have just plowed into somebody. Well. What happened is that we were coming to a stop, and I don't remember any of this. This is what CHP told me. We're coming to a stop, and I was going about 20, 25 miles an hour. A guy behind me is going 70 and didn't see the traffic stopping. He was in another truck, and he hit me, and I hit a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all 3 vehicles got totaled. I never saw the rear end of my truck until a buddy of mine went to the salvage yard the next day, and he took a picture and showed me. And my truck was 3 feet shorter.
Oh, my God.
And these guys told me, they're like, the insurance adjuster, he goes, man, if you'd been in anything smaller, you'd have been dead.
Yeah.
And I wound up with a bleed on my brain. And I remember they telling me, they're like, yeah, you've got this bleed. And I'm like, and I remember being in the ER, and I was a paramedic for years. So I'm like, everything was okay. And then they said, you got this bleed. And I'm like, oh, shit just got real.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I don't remember going for the CAT scan to find out about the bleed. I don't remember going for the CAT scan afterwards to say the bleed wasn't there, but they were going to operate. Okay,
Yeah.
They were gonna
On
fix
your
that
ear?
bleed.
On your ear? It
No,
was like
in my brain.
in your brain?
Yeah,
Wow.
and the hearing loss was part of the accident, and then I ended up with 2 shoulder replacements and a hip replacement. I got fucked up.
Yeah.
And the guy had no insurance, which was a drag. But
That's horrible. You gotta go 70 miles, and you're gonna drive a death machine with no insurance.
Yeah, the 4-wheel drive truck, boom.
Jesus.
And if I'd have been in, think if I'd been in like some kind of like a Yugo or something, I would have been like, I would have been I would have been a pancake. I would have been a fritter. But I remember.
It's definitely a miracle that you're here.
Yeah, I don't remember the accident. There's a lot of my past, that people will say stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. And the weird thing is that, I don't remember a lot of the hospital stuff, but I do remember the surgeon coming in and telling me he was removing himself from my case because he didn't have to operate on me. I'm like, you're going to operate? And he goes, oh, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And then I went back to I was running a show every Friday night at a casino, and I went back to do that, and I had somebody helping me for a while. And after the show, my ears were just ringing, and everything hurt. I was so hypersensitive to sound that it just screwed me up.
Did you remember your set?
I don't know. I would think I was trying to do I was hosting, so I was just trying to do improv that night. Or actually, I think I had somebody else hosting, but I just remember afterwards I went back to the ER, and they said, you've got hearing loss, and it may or may not come back.
Oh, fuck.
So did that, but I had the shoulder and the hip replacement. The cool thing, the one thing that happened from that, my daughter and I think I told you this before, my daughter and I, after I had the shoulder and the hip replacement, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come back. I'm going to be better, right? And my daughter was a high school swimmer at the time, and I said, hey, do you want to do this deal? And we swam 1.5 miles from Alcatraz in the center of San Francisco Bay to the shore.
Oh, that's wild.
And we swam in this race, and it was funny because Feather goes like this. He's like, Dave, you're going to swim in a race called the Shark Fest swim. I said, yeah. He goes, it says shark right in the damn name, Dave. I said, I know. He goes, shark-infested waters, yeah. Freezing waters, yeah. Currents that could sweep you out to sea and you could die. And I said, yeah, and I'm doing it with my daughter. And he looked me right in the eye and he goes, Dave, that is some white people shit.
That is.
And I was like, yeah. And so here's the thing.
Timestamp that. We're going to send that shit in the Danny Brown show. I go up with my daughter to San Francisco, and we're meeting at Aquatic Park, and there are 780 swimmers in this race, right? And there's this little amphitheater. I'm on the top looking down. All 780 swimmers were white. Oh, Lord.
And I went, oh, my God. And I hear this, are you okay? And I turn, and it's the security guard who, like Feather, happens to be African-American, right? And I go, I was just thinking about something a buddy of mine said. He goes, is he black? And I said, yeah. He goes, he's right. This is some white people shit.
Yeah.
He goes, I've been working this race for 20 years. I ain't seen a brother get in the water yet. Says shark right in the damn name. I don't know what y'all thinking. And then he goes, I'll see you on the rescue boat. I'm like, oh, motherfucker.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like, you gonna go, you see what you said, 750 white people.
Oh.
It's like a feeding frenzy for the shark.
Yeah. I mean, dude, men, women, kids, all different shapes and sizes, former Olympians, current, amazing stuff. But all 780 were white.
Yeah.
I kid you not.
Wow.
And I was like, this is
I would never do it. Look, when I was a kid, I won third place in the Junior Olympics for swimming. And I would never get in those waters. I'm too fat for that shit right now. But
you built like a seal right now.
A walrus. I'm like a fucking manatee.
Yeah, I am the walrus. I'm
not doing it.
No, it's like, and the water's freaking cold. I remember jumping in that water and my nuts would and up inside me so fast, and I was like, oh my God. And while I was still in the water, because you had to jump in from like the ceiling level off the ship, because they don't land on the island.
That's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I would do that just to get in. I would dive in, but I want right out the water.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't dive in. You go feet first, man.
Oh really?
Oh hell yeah. But you get in and you go down quite a ways. And while I was underwater, I was thinking about that security guard. And I'm like, he said something about rescue boat because I was ready. I was already ready to quit. And during the swim, what happens is the current changes. Because as they start on a slack tide, and then it goes into an ebb tide and starts pulling you out to sea. And they said, you need to start swimming this way because it's going to take you that way halfway through the race. And so when that
sounds
happened,
tiring.
The current starts kicking up and everything like that. I was a swimmer on a rescue team, and I'm like, I can do this. I thought, I almost got seasick, on a swim.
Yeah.
And I was feeling it was just horrible. And I made it into shore. And my daughter is waiting for me at the finish line.
Oh, shit.
She swam it with me, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, Dad, I'm so proud of you. And I went, I didn't want to let you down. She goes, I didn't want to let you down either. But I came in on the rescue boat.
No.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? She goes, yeah, I'm just messing with you. I made it about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, all right.
And I'm like, Phew. And she's like, let's do it again next year. And I'm like, no, that's enough white people shit for daddy. But she swam it again the next year. So she swims it again the next year, and she does it from outside the Golden Gate over 1.5 miles into Sausalito, and she wins the women's no wetsuit division as a 16-year-old. Yeah. She won the damn race. And I was like, oh, my God. So, yeah, I mean, it was awesome. She got scared by a sea lion in there. She's like, I'm done with open water swims. Yeah. That's a different story. But so I tell that story on stage. There's this whole thing, depending on how long my set is, but I'll tell that. Well, she comes to one of my shows one night, and she goes, and I figure, as a dad, that's the most impact I've ever had on my daughter, that I'm going to do that, because she was like, oh, Dad, none of my other friends, their dads wouldn't do that with them. So I'm like, that's my legacy with my daughter. That's
awesome, man.
That's what I've done. And she goes, Dad, that's not the most important thing. That's not what I'm going to remember most about you. And I'm like, it's not? And she goes, no. She goes, when I was a little girl, like 5 or 6 years old, when we were living in Fresno, you sat me down and you put your hands on my shoulders and you got down on my level and said, honey, I want you to promise me one thing. When you get old enough and you have the money, move out of Fresno and don't ever come back. And she goes, I took that shit to heart, Dad.
I like that.
And she did. She made it out of Fresno, and she doesn't live there anymore. She lives in Clovis, which is the town right next to Fresno. So, but it's baby steps. She's working on it.
Yeah.
But it was damn funny. I was like, man, I went through all this stuff, this training for this race and everything. Yeah. And the most important thing, because you never know what your kids are going to, what they're going to remember most about you. But it was to tell her, get out there in the world. Don't stay here. Get out and see things.
Nice.
So
I like that, bro.
Yeah, well, I encourage my kids. My dad wasn't a big encourager, and my brother and I did that with our kids where, go out and just doesn't matter what
live life.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we want for you. Mm-hmm. It's what you're hardwired for. Pursue that.
Yeah.
Okay? We will support that. Okay, we'll back you up.
Yeah.
But it's not about, oh, I think you should do this. No, I think you should do what you're wired to do. And all four of my kids are so different.
Dude. That's great. You know, you encourage individualism, and that's important. You know what I mean? It's very important. I just had my first son, and That's one thing I'm gonna do is like input that. And I want him to have his own individualism, and have it to shine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, teach him to like, dig into who you are as a person.
Right.
And figure that out, because it took me, dude, I didn't start doing comedy till I was, 32, 2019,
Yeah.
And
God damn, you've done all
30,
of that in 3 years. You were where
3
you at in
years,
3 years.
3 years, 9
Dude, you're
months.
way ahead of the ball game. That is awesome.
I'm trying, man. It's a marathon, I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself.
Right.
I'm trying to be calm with it, and because it's a lot. It can be overwhelming. I've learned it can be overwhelming. It could be depressing. It could be a lot of things.
Right.
But you just gotta learn to get a hold of it in your way, and don't let it overwhelm you.
Well, and you also can't get ahead of yourself. I mean, that was one of the things, I told you about the one comic, but I did a show with Nema Williams, and Nema Williams used to open for Cat Williams. Nema Williams is a white comic that married a black woman, right?
Okay.
And so he does all this stuff about, like Gary Owens, right?
Yeah.
But Nema only had, he's doing these shows with Cat, everything is going great, and he goes, fame was thrust upon him. He goes, I wasn't ready for it yet. I only had 12 minutes.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm working with a big name. And so, you got to develop, you got to develop the material and have more on there. Like Oliver Graves was on America's Got Talent, and he had not a lot of time. And the other guys that I told you about, like with Kabir Singh and Sam Comro and Mikey Winfield and Drew Lynch, they all went through AGT, and they're just blowing up. I mean, those guys, they're set.
Yeah.
And Oliver went through there, and he just didn't have any material to back it up.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And I've done some shows with him, and it's like, it's tough. He had a very unique stick, but
yeah, you got to find out who you are. I had to find out who I was, and I did that during the pandemic. I was blessed to get a lot of time because no one was doing anything but me and a few other comics. We were the only ones.
Where were you guys working during the pandemic?
I mean, dude, we found I started the first comedy show back in Louisiana at a place called Mama's Bar.
Okay.
I just found a bar, and it was in a neighborhood, and we were able to do 5 shows there, but it was a neighborhood bar, so we're doing it outside late at night in a metairie, in like an old metairie neighborhood, which is like the upper echelons of Louisiana, I guess. Richier, but I mean, it wasn't the old metairie part, it's still nice houses, but it's like people don't want to hear cursing at 10, 11 o'clock at night over a microphone while they're at their house.
Yeah, they don't want to hear it at any time.
In the heat of the pandemic, too, in 2020, we got a group of people at a bar, and it was loud, and we were. But that's how we started, bro. I actually did my first set on July 18th, 2020 at a talent search. A friend of mine did it. Just had a talent search, and me and my buddy went and did it. We paid $25 to go do a set in an all-black room. We were the only 2 white dudes, and we killed. We're like, man, we got to keep this shit going. So we just find spots. We had one spot. It was off the Lake Pontchartrain, and it was just like somebody's house. They let us use the balcony. And we had like a trash can fire going, 30-degree weather, dude. We on balcony by the fucking lake. They got a trash can fire going. People are just fucking like surrounded the trash can fire, and they got people in cars listening to us. I mean, it was just, we just found anywhere we could. Anyway, that's all we did, and we had like 8 different mics. We would pass mics. You would get your own mic as a comic. We were as safe as we could be, and it was the greatest fucking time ever. It was a golden moment. And
that's something that you take with you forever because hopefully that crap doesn't happen again. But like California, we were doing a lot of, and I didn't do it. I just during the pandemic, I just took time to write.
Yeah.
And to reflect on stuff because I think I told you I lost 45 shows in the first 90 days of the pandemic.
It's rough.
It sucked. And I was traveling all over. I mean, I was just a road dog. I had good respect from guys, but I would go and do anything. I would do anything. It didn't matter what mic, what room. Some good paying, some not. It's like it's like
you ever did Zoom shows?
Oh yeah, I did.
That's the one thing I didn't do. I've never done a Zoom show.
That is a weird deal. Zoom is really weird because you're sitting there like this is okay. Okay, this is kind of like this it's a podcast. It's gonna be a Zoom. It's like doing a Zoom show, but Zoom you're sitting there by yourself and you're telling a joke and you're just watching people online and
they gotta react.
Yeah, and you're like
laugh emoji.
Somebody's invariably somebody's just like taking their computer to the bathroom with them and taking a shit or something. You're like, all right, man, and they got topped. You got topped by that, and but the Zoom shows, I did one. And, it was okay, but I was like, you know what? I can't. It just, some guys really did well with that. Sammy Obeid, do you know who he is?
No.
Sammy did 1,000 nights of comedy in a row.
Nice.
And he performed everywhere. And he was on Last Comic Standing. He's been on Conan. He's been all stuff. The guy is just incredibly well written. Love seeing Sammy. And he was filmed. Matter of fact, I did a show with him. He was filming for his next special. He was filming up at the Punchline in San Francisco. Okay. And I got to do a set on that show with him and Kabir. And Sammy is just he's the wordplay master.
Yeah.
He's just so well written. But he was doing Zooms all the time and he would do anything. And if Sammy's showing up and doing all this after doing some of the great things that he did. I
heard some good money was made on those shows.
Yeah, you could make bank on that. There's one guy that was a gamer, okay? And all he would do is he had guys that were subscribers and paid monthly subscriptions to watch him play games and talk about how he was moving through the game.
Yeah.
And so then he started doing comedy, and he would bring guys in, he would bring comics in, and they're doing, like a podcast. And so the guy's telling jokes without anybody, other than, the couple people that were in the studio.
Yeah.
That's it. And in this case, in this guy's garage.
Yeah.
And so this guy told his subscribers, if you like it, just start donating money and the laughter will be the cha-ching sound.
Yeah.
And this guy's doing his set, and he's saying a joke, and you just hear cha-ching, 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 ching, 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 and it was going crazy. And the guy did like a 15-minute set, made $600.
Oof, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so there's ways to do it. There's guys that are technically savvy that can get,
Yeah, that's fucking cool. I'm not that dude. I'm not technically savvy at all. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better.
The guy on the other side. The guy on the other side,
Yeah.
Pay no attention.
Shout out to Grimtown Studios, baby. What's up?
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, I love Grim. So, how about this? We got to wrap it up.
Shit, we already did an hour?
We already did. It goes quick, man. Let me ask you this. Do you have any advice for younger comics out there?
There's just pursue it, man. Just be true to yourself. There's I'm a regular at the San Jose Improv, and I go to the open mics there for a networking thing, and plus to get on and just to stay in front of them if I'm not booked on shows. And there's this young kid out there now that just entered high school, and he's getting booked all over the place, and it's the next generation coming up. And it's just go out there, like Carlin says, talk about the stuff that pisses you off. Well, maybe if it doesn't piss you off, just talk about the stuff you're passionate about.
Okay.
And just be passionate about it. You got to love this because it's a grind.
Yeah.
And you cannot rush the process.
Yeah.
Learn it.
It really is.
And my comedy coach gave me the greatest advice, that his dad was this big Hollywood actor. Okay. And he said, anytime you learn something from somebody, acknowledge that, buy him a drink, do whatever. So after I did the show with Brad Upton from Dry Bar Comedy, who, blew up, I told you he had 30 million views in 10 days.
Yeah.
I said, can I take you out for a drink? And he said, yeah. So we sat down and we talked, right? And just got to listen to him and pick his brain. Talk to the other guys. Talk to the older comics. Don't talk to the guys that are on your level.
Right.
Talk to the guys that are next up and figure out what they're doing and how to get there.
Okay.
Watch comedians in cars getting coffee, because there's some great advice on that show.
I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Hell yeah. You got anything you want to plug?
I'm going to be filming 2 different specials. I got my first one coming up. I'm going to be filming December 10th at Canocti Harbor Resort, up by Blue Lake, and filming up there, all clean set. And then I'm going to be up in Portland. We haven't nailed down the date yet. I think it's going to be either March or April. And I've got shows tonight here, but that's I don't think we're going to be up that quick. And then I'm going to be out in Hawaii in February doing shows. I'm going to be doing the Aloha Comedy Festival.
Nice.
I hit them up out there. So funny. I told you about the girlfriend. And she's like, I want to have a romantic time. And I'm like, look, this is, I got asked to be in the featured act in the comedy festival. I'm like, you can have 23 hours a day. I get an hour, okay?
Yeah, right.
That's it. That just,
Hell yeah.
So that's it. So I got,
cool.
Those are the good things coming up.
Nice. That's awesome. It's always nice to have something coming up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
other than last night's dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, if you are ever in New Orleans, every Tuesday I run a great show at another bar on Ferret Street. Come through. That starts at 8:30. We go to about 12 o'clock. Let's see, November 27th, I got What the Fuck Are They Yelling on the West Bank. Come out to that. It's a great show. I got a great lineup I'm setting up for you guys. Let's see. I got some dates next month. I'm not doing too much in December, but setting up for next year. So let's see. I got Bonkers on January 5th, 2023. I believe. No, wait. Is that the... I gotta double check that. It's either the 5th or the 12th. I think I got rescheduled for the 12th. Bonkers. And that's all I'll plug right now. You guys. Thank y'all for tuning in to Pickles House today, man. I had a great time with you, David. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I just got to say, dude, you're just amazing me. You are doing it right. You are making it happen. I can't wait to see you blow up and you one day call me and go, hey, you want a feature for me?
I definitely have it, bro.
And then you're like, I'd like you to, but you're too fucking old.
I like my the older gentlemen, and I like people who are seasoned.
Yeah, I'm definitely seasoned. I'm moving into one of those 55 and older communities just so I can feel young again.
Hell yeah!
Signed the lease today. I kid you not. That's a true story.
Nice. There you go. That's another way to save money. Huh?
Absolutely.
Thank you again, brother, for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a good day.
All right.
Later.